Oh, what a week. My head is spinning. On Tuesday, the Associate Health Minister, Casey Costello, directed Health New Zealand to say women instead of pregnant people in its communications on health issues. Will Health New Zealand comply? Well, that waits to be seen, but it is important. And it gives us hope that this trans ideology and erosion of women's rights and general madness might finally, bit by bit, be stopped. And today, more great news, this time out of Britain, out of the UK, highest court has ruled that only biological and not trans women meet the definition of a woman under equality laws. The court sided with a campaign group, as I said, called for Women Scotland. I hope I've got that round the right way. The much anticipated ruling centred on whether a trans woman with a gender recognition certificate, or a GRC, it's a formal document they have, giving legal recognition to someone's new gender is protected from discrimination as a woman under Britain's Equality Act. The decision confirms that single-sex services for women such as refuges, hospital wards and sports can exclude trans women, clearing up legal ambiguity. After the ruling, there was jubilation in the streets. Here's a little bit for you.
We were in a really difficult place in Scotland then. We thought we were going to see rights for women rolled back, and today the judges have said what we always believed to be the case, that women are protected by their biological sex, that sex is real, and that women can now feel safe that services and spaces designated for women are for women, and we are enormously grateful to the Supreme Court for this ruling.
Joining me now is Suzanne Levy from Speak Up for Women. Suzanne, huzzah! Great to talk to you again.
Oh, lovely to be here. Thank you so much. And yeah, what a week. But it's insane.
What a week.
Just common sense.
It is. Suzanne, before we get to this landmark ruling in the UK, I didn't get to talk to you earlier in the week. So I want to just come back closer to home, and Minister Casey Costello, her directive to Health New Zealand. How did you feel about that? How important is what she said?
Well, look, what a time to be alive, where we're celebrating somebody saying that we should use the term woman instead of, it's fantastic. It's a sign of a shift back to a common sense approach to this sort of thing, so it's wonderful. It's great to see a minister actually make a directive like that. Obviously we need to see what Health New Zealand do with it. It's a fantastic start, and it's what we've been working towards. Is if you start not naming the group that is concerned, they lose power. If you can't say this is an issue that affects women lose their position in the decision making stuff around that. So it's so important that you name who you're talking about and you name them properly. Yeah,
you did touch on it, Suzanne. Are you a little bit concerned? I mean, I'm not 100% that Health New Zealand will follow the directive.
Will Health New Zealand follow it? Will the new midwifery scope of practice, will it reflect the changes? Will it have a proper flow on effect? I think it will, but it remains to be seen. This journey is so full of surprises and ups and downs, and it is a real roller coaster. So we're just going to have to wait.
Yeah.
But obviously groups like ours that just continue to push back on these sorts of things.
Yeah, which is great to see. All right, judges in the their Supreme Court have unanimously ruled that a woman is defined by biological sex under equalities law. This is huge, is it not, Suzanne?
Oh, look, it is. So they talk about certificated sex versus biological sex. Now, certificated sex is as I'm sure you're aware, is nonsense. There's only one kind of sex, that's biological. And the woman in the UK had to go through this to get this judgment. And so this is a shout out to For Women Scotland, Scottish lesbians, the Lesbian Project, LGB Alliance, Sex Matters, all the wonderful women in the UK who have paved the way, because this is going to make a difference in New Zealand.
Yes,
it really will.
Yeah, I want to get to that very shortly, but I suppose, my question is, how might this decision influence future legislation or policies related to sex and gender?
In New Zealand or in the UK?
Well, I think in the UK, well, they seem to be a little bit more evolved than we are with this at the moment, or a bit ahead of us. Can you see for them, what else do you think the legislation will change?
They're in a sort of similar situation to us in that, they've had to seek to have the law clarified, but what's really been going on is that the people making policies have been misrepresenting the law, or they've been representing it the way they've wanted it to be, which the Supreme Court have now said that might be how you want it, but it's not how it is. But meanwhile, you have all of these policies that have sort of taken over, if you like. I mean, trans activism has been incredibly successful in getting policies through public services and through NGOs, through everything. So it's how do you then roll that back? So how do you say the law is really clear now? So single sex services are permissible to be encouraged in lots of circumstances. Things like sport, it makes it really, really clear. A lot of those things that have been contentious, it's like, well, do they really mean, when they say sex, do they really mean sex? That kind of thing. Yeah. That question has been answered in the UK. So I think, but you've got to undo policy, and that will be the issue in New Zealand as well, for any clarification that's made here. We have a similar situation to the UK. They have a gender recognition certificate. We have self-ID. Yes. But our self-ID, in a way, took care of part of this. So we're, in the UK, they've talked about biological sex and certificated sex. Sorry with that word. And when we introduced our births, deaths and marriages legislation, there's a little clause in there, a little section in the Act, that it's section 79(2), and it says, it's called certificates as evidence. And what it says is that a birth certificate isn't necessarily evidence of somebody's sex. So in some ways, we are not that far from where the UK are now, even though we have a form of self-ID. But in terms of policy through government and through public service and through all the government agencies, we are totally captured. We are up to our necks. So we in some ways we have a law that does protect us, but we have activism that has meant that law is not respected, right? And that really started with our Human Rights Commission. So there's all sorts of things to undo, and that's what we're working towards. I think I came in and spoke to you about a petition that we presented recently. Yes. Which seeks to almost do exactly what they've just done in Scotland, which is to clarify the meaning of that sex in legislation means is the ordinary biological. Yes. Yeah. So we presented the petition on the 25th of March, and then it goes to the Petitions Select Committee, and as part of that we put in a written submission, and that will include a lot of information about the UK ruling from yesterday. So it's all stuff that relates to New Zealand. They have the Equalities Act. We have the Human Rights Act, which are very similar. They're not identical, but the Human Rights Act is very clearly based on the Equalities Act. Australia is quite different, but New Zealand and the UK are very similar. Yeah. Yeah. What about that? What's going on with that? You got so far with the petition, and what are you waiting on now? Sorry, Suzanne.